Let's start with the Heart Sutra. Am I on? Yeah, cool. I prostrated the iron triple gem. Thus did I hear it one time. The Bhagavan was was running on massive Aljan mountains in Rajgira together with a great community of monks and a great community of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Bhagavan was absorbed in concentration on the categories of phenomena called profound perception. Also at that time, the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, Arya Avalokiteshvara looked upon the very practice of the profound perfection of wisdom and beheld those five aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Then through the power of the Buddha, the Bhagavad Shariputra said this to the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, Arya Avalokiteshvara. How should any son of the lineage train who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom? He said that the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, Arya Avalokiteshvara said this to the Venerable Shariputra. Shariputra, any son of the lineage or daughter of the lineage who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom, should gloat upon like this, correctly and repeatedly beholding those five aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Form is empty. Emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form. Form is also not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, composition, factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, likewise, all phenomena are emptiness without characteristic. Unproduced, unceased, stainless, not without stain, not deficient, not fulfilled. Shariputra, therefore, in emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no composition of factors, no consciousness. No eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no visual form, no sound, no odor, no taste, no object of touch, and no phenomenon. There is no element and so on up to including no mind element and no mental consciousness element. There is no ignorance, no extension of ignorance, and so on up to including no aging and death, and no extension of aging and death. Similarly, there is no suffering, origination, cessation, and path. There is no exalted wisdom, no attainment, and also no non-attainment. Shariputra, therefore, because there is no non-attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and dwell on the perfection of wisdom, the man without obscuration, without fear. Having completely passed beyond error, to reach the end point of nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the three times also manifestly completely awaken to unsurpassable, perfect, complete enlightenment in reliance on the perfection of wisdom. Therefore, the mantra of the perfection of wisdom, the mantra of the great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the mantra equal to the unequal, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering should be known as the truth, since it is not false. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is declared, Tayata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhisoha. Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, should train in the profound perfection of wisdom like that. Then the Bhagavan arose from that concentration and commended the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara, saying, well said, son of the lineage, it is like that, it is like that. One should practice the profound perfection of wisdom just as you have indicated, even the Tathagatas rejoice. The Bhagavan, having thus spoken, the Venerable Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara, and those surrounding in their entirety, along with the worlds of God, Asuras and Gandharvas, were overjoyed and highly praised that spoken by the Bhagavan. I prostrated the gathering of the kidneys in the three chakras to abide in the holy yoga of using space by a powers of clairvoyance and magical emanations. Look after practitioners like her mother, her child. Akasamara Tsashara Samaraya Pet Akasamara. Akasamara Tsashara Saraya Pet. Tayata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasangate Bodhisoha. But the teachings of the three supreme jewels possessing the power of truth, may inner and outer hindrances be transformed, may they be dispelled, may they be pacified. Shintun Koriya Soha. May all negative forces opposed to Dharma be completely pacified. May the host of 80,000 obstacles be pacified. May we be separated from problems and harmful conditions to Dharma. May all enjoyments be in accordance with the Dharma. May there be auspiciousness and perfect happiness here and right now. Sashi Joshi Meto Tamri Rablingshi Nidegempadi Sangye Shindu Mikte Owa Idroku Namda Shila Chupa Shoidam Guru Ratna Mandala Kamiyataya
Sanji
Chodan
Chodan
Sogi Chonam La Chanchu Bardu Dani Kyapsuchi
Dagi
Dagi
Chushi
Chushi
Yibin
Gibe
Sonum
Chonangi Drola Penchi
Sanji
Sanje Dropa
Druparasho Sanji
Chodan
Chodan
Sogi
Soji
Chonam
Chonam
La
La
Chanchu Bardu
Badu
Dani
Dani
Kyapsuchi
Dagi
Dagi
Chushi
Chushi Gibe
Yibin Sonum
Chonangi Drola Penchi
Sanji
Sanje Dropa
Druparasho Sanji
Chodan
Chodan
Sogi
Soji
Chonam
Chonam
La
La
Chanchu
Chanchu
Bardu
Badu
Dani
Dani
Kyapsuchi
Dagi
Dagi
Chushi
Chushi Gibe
Yibin Sonum
Chonangi Drola Penchi Sanje
Sanjindra
Dropa
Parasho Kangi Tuzinyi Zone Tawa Tamje Pambi Cher Tambi Chun Denze Kodam Jela Changse Lo. Good morning, everyone. So, the cousin Samdi Tundru Dungar Shiva Movaseti. Tereshas, right?
So we're going to pick up on the point that we left off yesterday. Let's look first of all at the outline. We're picking up from verse 16. So verse 16 comes, or the first two lines in verse 16 come under the heading of dedicating for the welfare of animals. This is the third point in dedicating so that the suffering of the lower realms may be pacified.
Tereshita, Tachidanda Yonda Tajirasra, Inangazuta Tundru Dungar Shiva Movalaya, Altamu Tundru Tenlaya, and Dunga Kariyabati, Nguns Tubaina. That same thing that is the Mayon show Samsung. Randa Shen Galaya, the Mayon show Samsung. And it's Loudon the Chick Tundru Ten the Young Insulaya, Tinti, Dunga Tower Chicken, Nani Yabati, Pe any Kitchiksamia, Mayon show Samsung key. And Malam same thing church, younger was ra.
So this is something that is, you can say, widely known or widely accepted. We here dedicate for the pacification of suffering of animals. So first off, in order to dedicate for the pacification of suffering of animals, we need to be able to recognize what sufferings animals go through. And once we realize their suffering, we think, may that not occur. May all of that suffering based on being an animal not occur even for a slight minute, a slight second.
Tiri Pena Tanganzu me in by Naya, me Nayan, any Tundru Dungar and mashing him, Pemambuyaros ra, Kashi, any chick and Tundru to the Kibushuch, they do something. Then it's sorry, Yosares, cutting among us that the Sri Lanka combat and draw Tamagi on the Churchill and Alaya, Chotangi, Medigi, and bit Tundroso Pigi, Shinada, and Dindilaya, Panda the Dindilaya, Kibush, which in the Chagdan Kaya Meviton, Degidos, Ganzo Medos to be Nalaya, Chagdan Jansen Shoe, Chenpe, Ganga Tubage Doas, or Dindi Chivas could dance on love songs.
Even for us as human beings, there are some of us who do not understand or do not see the suffering that animals go through. Something that being born as an animal means that you're going to live happily and comfortably. A few weeks ago, we traveled down to Brisbane and visited a Sri Lankan temple for Vesak, and there was a conference bringing together people from different Buddhist traditions and also other traditions as well. And at the end of the conference, there was sort of a really brief Q&A session between the people that participated in the conference and the audience. And one person asked about the problems that we experience as human beings. But the assumption that that person was making is that animals live a really happy and comfortable life. If they live in the forest, if they live in meadows, wherever they live happily and comfortably without those disturbing states of mind that we experience, without anger, attachment, and so forth. That was the assumption that that person was saying. It's saying that actually compared to animals, we have a really complicated life. Our minds are governed by anger and attachment and so forth. So that basic assumptions that, for example, animals live happily and comfortably without disturbing states of mind, in Geshe's mind is like sometimes, in Geshe's mind, it is indicative that some people do not recognize the suffering of being an animal.
Odirida, that digi, Yasichama Shivali, Junjunala Sombi, and a Tundru Dungar ki, Tundru di Dungar Kantajikin Nargi Yobati, ta Hamakobaina, and a chick Rawanda, and a chick Shidijik Tolia, Day of a Drojik, and in Jansam da Dindri ki Shingyoman, one re, Inaya, Timeva Zamgi. Be Shidishuch, Ganzumil Hawach, Yobach, Sorbaina, and the Jatam Norway, but Tangazushon Machi Lomaina, Hakores Ra.
So then looking at this manual of Shantideva, if we don't understand, without an understanding of how sentient beings are tormented by suffering, we might think that we might not, first of all, wish them to attain the state of freedom or the state of peace. If we don't understand the type of suffering that they go through, we might think that actually they are in a higher state of existence than us. You know, in that sense, the sense of pleasure, well-being, and so forth that they experience is higher than us. So once we develop an understanding of the suffering that animals go through, we understand that this is certainly not the case.
Tireda, Penadina Disonrada, Tundrunam Jigla Jig, Sai Jig, the tower shows Lawandi, and it Tundru Danlaya, Jigta Sashu di, Donga Cheshu di, and it Tundru Jig San in Droyati. Shujig be Kasota, Shuk Chambodan. Namra in the Euros.
So then it says, may the animals be free from the fears of being eaten by another in the first two lines of verse 16. And this is regarded as the most significant suffering that animals go through. Feasting upon each other, preying upon each other. Dila kasang konengi pachimachi pingachi hoptakala tonchasa.
Yeah. Oh, did it? Did you want to do stay by now? And it Tundrugi Rangi Tupsugi Socha Shambaji Hobana Mancheg Sajan Roach Redos Send Sajan Roach. When a dream by na drew check Chon Salia, but top of Tesum Korameva. 아니 차도zo 차체도zo 치우총도zo 사야라야 아니 베디 팀해봐 안 두스바 젠진 체도zo 때바이나로 신나기 베나 샤와당 직도zo 때바이나 가도이나 백남다식톤 싹 한복한 지에치니 람상 고야 꺄네 아니 남다진 되게 두스 냠시체다 아니 빼 마시 받더니 남자 코란 톨이야 돼요 바디 Geshe gyata marwas ro
Looking at animals and how they act as food for one another. Big animals eat small animals. Big snakes, for example, consider smaller snakes as food. Big birds, birds of prey, eat smaller birds without holding back, without avoiding eating, you can say, a similar species. Not only that, when you also see herbivore animals like deer and so forth eating grass, they might be eating grass, but when you look at the head movements and the ears and so forth, it seems that at any given time they fear for their life. They keep their senses heightened in order to avoid danger, being preyed upon by other animals. So when we think about it, this is living in fear of falling prey to another animal.
pena nya dojina nya chegi nya chonta pe nimajila ya ani kazu sagwarsro dindi samdawaina ani tundru nanglo la ya ani chukba ge dan jig saya donga di ani pedi shuk chemboro pena kidojina ngazu ki ani mi ki dabo gem kilya gawu chi yoros ina ya du stebaina manzu pegpela ya kinansin roji keran kinansin res pe duksa roji jargo res ro jardan di kila du shimju chibana ki kila tugondi pe shoji khatdo na pe ani lamsan chomjini gyari gyagan roji koranzu rig dila ya dangbu shoji manzu mi parala ya jensam da thagdo yorda ina ya dinanshi yo marwas dindigi ta tundru rig ya kenza shoji Dungar Kenza shoji yorsra.
Or the fish living in the ocean, big fish eating small fish. And how many small fish are eaten daily by big fish? Great number of fish are being eaten by bigger fish. Or when we look at fightings between animals that occur in the animal realm. Like, for example, dogs. We like to keep dogs as pets, right? So we consider dogs to be nice pets, loyal pets, and so forth. But between them, they can be very aggressive towards each other. Like, for example, in Tibetan language or Tibetan culture, sometimes people say, "Don't act like a dog." So don't act like a dog. Don't be like a dog. Is of course not a pleasant thing. It's said, it is said in a negative way. And what it means, at least in Tibetan culture, is that dogs, at least Tibetan dogs, are very aggressive towards each other. They can be quite pleasant to people, but when dogs meet each other, they become full-on aggressive. So if someone is prone to be aggressive, a person is being aggressive to others, prone to get into argument, fighting, and so forth, people say, don't act like a dog. Are animals capable of bodhicitta? The Tundrugi tendu chanchugi semke yorves yamades. Well, it's a complicated question in a sense that, it can open the doors to complications.
Karsoda Minang Shinjin, the company to the draw my ba Man Chadi, Kamba Shizun, and Drongetele, Tundros Sigdas, Tundun Rosati, or the D Delia, Chitan Dramating Goras, and as nation to move about Tundros Joras, T Tola, Chanjus and Kiadi, Kazashivana Jatang Honga Pacha Chimbu Shuchk, any yanko latent wangi, negap any pigilea, 아니 튼주 기와 랭공이 임바나 아니 튼주 땐라야 겐신 토니 틴디 미용 시그러스 베나 냐위 땐라야 비 셈기와 유슨 딘디 다 송여바인자 rinri jar choya rawch remado chetang ni pedi ta misik batawch redo asra.
The word for an animal in Tibetan language is dundro. Now, as Tibetan language works with syllables, and each of the syllable has its own particular meaning, dro, the second syllable, means to go or to walk around. The first syllable, du, means that one is doing so bent over. So we as human beings, we are doing that on two legs, right? So we're moving around on two legs. Animals, of course, it's not pervasive, but you can say that animals go around being bent over. They're walking around on four limbs and so forth. Anyway, when you look at the characteristics of an animal, the general characteristics of the suffering of animals is they're suffering from being dull and stupid, in a sense that the suffering are attributed to not having a mental capacity that enables them to achieve a great thing. So as such, kind of, you could say that most animals suffer from this mental dullness, which does not allow them to develop bodhicitta. But is it pervasive that no one of them can do that? It's hard to assert that, because there is a statement that says that even for some being in the hells, it is possible to generate bodhicitta. So if it is stated that even for some beings in the hells, it is possible in a certain unique situation to develop bodhicitta, it's hard to then exclude that altogether in the animal realm. So maybe you can say that, well, it might be possible in a certain scenario for an animal to develop bodhicitta. It is so difficult that it is almost impossible.
데르다 이나야 지상 카즈시와 난신기 바샤 슈첸보 영이 저 인지다 전주성 바샤 슈첸보 영이 이난 칼기 레기 떡기 고 레기 떡기 내가 아니 던로라야 계정이 딘지 용 시고레스 인상 아주 던로 임바이나야 던로 임바이나야 페나 던로다 치라바지 페나 키 임바이나야 키망 제약이 셴발야 소자야 저 아니 지 랑기 코랑 아니 송인기 진다드마도 셴발야 아니 지 아니 소장이 키딘디 여러스 이내 키리지기 만졌던데 때모딘데 나와 원네 이나다 쇠샤가 요이나 미시마도 가시 아니 로바친 아니 피길래야 지 냠탈라야 로바친 제등에 딘 통고도스 간지 딘디 바샤 홍그 바샤기 또기 그 아니 딘디 가서다 인지 숙천보 여등에 딘디 돈로 용초고서 게제시 미시바자마도 샘나올이야 찬자 소딩이 아니 피길이 페시시에나 지금 공예 딘디 용초고서 다 딘디기 아니 로지직 디딤니 피길이야 사운드다운디 찍지나 ki misi watindi tachik du ki sig marsi lab thug marasra koran tendi ludi logare mado sem nalola ya chanzang sordungi dindi yong mucho dindi re mado asra.
For some, through developing compassion, through developing bodhicitta, there are very strong imprints that are placed on the mind stream. And it could happen that even if you have placed really strong imprints in your mind through cultivating compassion, through cultivating bodhicitta, you might end up in your next lifetime being born as an animal. But still, you could say that those imprints do affect your mind stream, even if you're born as an animal. Like, for example, some dogs are being quite aggressive to each other or aggressive to others. They might try to bite or to attack other animals or other people, but they're quite affectionate with their owner. But some other dogs are affectionate with everyone. not only that, that those that are trained particularly to be of help to others. They're helping with in cases of disabilities and others. And it seems that they're capable of developing an emotional state of mind, that they do care for others. So, Geshe has seen some clips or some documentaries of dogs that were used in such situations where they care for others. So it seems that not only they have the ability to react in an emotional way to a certain situation, they might not be able to express that in words, they might not be able to speak about it, but it seems that they are capable of emotional states. So not only that, they also understand certain situations and react to those situations in an emotive way. That being the case, then it's hard, Geshe reckons, to conclude in an absolute sense that no animal whatsoever is capable of generating bodhicitta.
tamachik dojan da ranshin gi gewa chi bi tobla teni tundru namni chigla chig sawi jigba soda tower shows.
Now, Geshe Rinpoche's commentary says, may, in depends on each and every root of merit of myself and others, the animals be free from the fear of eating one another.
Sumba da idaji tendungowa. Idaji tendungowa nis jami nyimbi gi mission do ida namne dewar kyur. Paba jenre siwan ki chani babi we gyun ida namne tsumshish tuji tadu sevar shows.
So now we have the next section, which is dedicating for the welfare of the hungry ghosts. We have 6 lines, the last 2 lines in verse 16 and verse 17. May the hungry ghosts be as happy as the human beings of unpleasant sound. May the hungry ghosts be satiated by the flow of milk descending from the hand of the Arya Lord Avalokiteshvara, and by washing in it, may they always be refreshed.
Yeah.
Shannon is asking, is that to say that bodhicitta is an emotional state? 저는 치고가 단단히 간대지나 천주교 샘스야 닌 다반에 촌난된다고 지 레기 로치그베스 야메나 균센 릭바 코날라테네 덴데치 체요레스 손난 덴데치 닌 다반에 촌난되는 슈쳔벨 레이어베스
이 저단 소난 좀 말아왔다. semshuk chigre dos ro chorna de semshuk ni des chig loga ingirda gyunzen da ribal teni yonggi yobati ngeba nyondi ani semshuk chigle dos simjan tamji ki den drup tungi sanji kombanti pi ta rigbi cheni tobgi yoba ani pena karsawata ani tobrong imba tobgi yoba ani top togbati ani ngebal teni ani 디 인지미니다 디 토바 체고 삼비기 아니 로드 레온디 찬주고 셈 라. 기바로스.
Emotional state in the sense that it is a certain state of mind that is full of courage. But when we say that it is an emotional state of mind, it might imply that it is devoid of reason. So this is not the case, because we do want to develop bodhicitta as kind of a strong courage, determination in our mind, but it is based on reasons, based on logic. In that, when we think of bodhicitta as the aspiration to attain the state of enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings, then we want to use reasons in order to develop that state of mind. Why is it? What is the need for us to attain that state? How is it that we are capable of attaining the state of Buddha for the sake of others? So how is it that this state of mind enlightenment is possible for the sake of others. So using those reasons, we then develop bodhicitta, but we develop bodhicitta in a sense that does affect the mind. We become courageous. We become determined to attain the state of enlightenment for the sake of others. So in that sense, you can say that since there is that strong determination that is involved with that, the strong courage in our mind that is developed with that, then it does affect our emotions. But it's not that those emotions are not based on reasons. They are based on valid reasons.
Tirita chanjusem ta ombu nombu chanjusem kedan jida ombu tobu chanjusem kedan ni son dita zo ombu nombu tik ra ombu nombu ki tambu pi denshi ki nelu le shu ani demba ni ki namsha shi dela tene anchi sumjin ko ko zuti ani ta marik bi shichi bi chagdang gyong ko ko yobati ani to tenza tsawa mariba pang di tela teni ki chakdang tela tenbi ki ti tsama kanji tawa da tamji kimbi kongpang di topji yoba di tsemi ngeba nye cheni ani simjan tamji ki chedo tawa wan sanji kongpang di ani tsemi ngeba nye ni ani di toba tendu nye nge ki ani dumba di tenbi ki semdele ya chanju sems da gyura mebi chanju semde tendi si shagdo az tenza da zu bi ki rig bi lam la ten rigbi lam la ten da gigdos.
Now, as for the ways to develop bodhicitta, there are those that there is the way of developing bodhicitta that is done by those of sharp faculties and those of dull faculties. Those of sharp faculties develop bodhicitta through recognizing first of that the root of cyclic existence is ignorance. Because of ignorance and the actions which are motivated by afflictive states of mind which are based on ignorance, we find ourselves again and again taking rebirth in cyclic existence. Then sharp faculty practitioners understand that ignorance can be eliminated, and thereby living beings or sentient beings can attain the state of liberation or the state of enlightenment. So they ascertain that with valid cognition, they realize that with valid cognition, and on that basis, then on that reasons and logic, they develop the mind of enlightenment, which contains or consists of the aspiration to attain the state of enlightenment in order to liberate other sentient beings from suffering. So this strong courage to attain the state of enlightenment is based on that sharp faculty practitioners use, is based on valid reasons and realizing the valid reasons for so doing. na nanglo la yamana nang ne chanchugi sem meba den de chik sheyores
anda chanchu sem di chida ani phongbonga shaon digi namshi phongbo seji ngunzi chigores ani chanchu sem di ani kharso daji namshi phongbo digi chashi chik chetachi chagores ine nganzu phongbonga shaon di zawi phongbonga di ani pena min rawana mi pha min taksa gi shedeleya dashi dele pumunga jago ti dashi kyubi pumunga nonsense chago marisra chanju sem.
So Oli is saying bodhicitta is not found within the 5 skandhas. That's according to Nagarjuna. Well, first of all, the mind of enlightenment is a primary consciousness, primary mental consciousness. So of the 5 aggregates, it would fit into the aggregate of primary consciousness. So it is a type of primary consciousness, right? It is one, you can say that it is a member of primary mental consciousnesses from within the 5 aggregates. But then when we consider the 5 aggregates in general, the 5 aggregates are regarded as the basis of imputation for imputing a person on that. So on the basis of the 5 aggregates, we impute a person. So as such, the mind of enlightenment is not the basis for imputing a person, the bases are the 5 aggregates. But still, you can say that of the aggregate of mental consciousness, the mind of enlightenment is one type, or is one member of primary consciousnesses.
어디다 드베나타 창기 담이님 미세디 콜라야 가서다 게톱기 게톱기더니 땡인선다 준틀 소버 딘디 용구여서레스 다디 십사보다 미시다 같이 딘디 용구여서 딘자 코랑기 디 톱지 아니 직 샘레야 직 세고 론주 아니 카르삼바티 테마타든 드비용야직 코랑코랑라야 란치 수비 니바지기 용구여서라스 다 데난신기 이다 남니 아니 직 코랑즈 강되버디 아니 드버쇼세기 말람자야직 송도스라
Gyaltsab Dhammarinchen says in his commentary, may the hungry ghosts be as happy as the people in Draminyen, which is one of the continents. So he said that those who are born in continents, just by being born in that state of existence, they enjoy those resources through the force, and they're born in that state of existence through the concentration or through, they attain those resources through concentration or through, you could say, those superpowers that they might have in that state of existence. Anyway, may the hungry ghosts be as happy as the people in that state of existence, Draminyen, and receive food, clothing, and possessions, those enjoyments, merely by wishing for them. May a stream of nectar, milk flowing down from the hand of the powerful transcendent Chenrezig satisfy the hunger and thirst of the hungry ghosts, and may they be refreshed forever by bathing in it.
이다기 세그 네마기 다 용수 폰데디다 아니 디코나 마도 상야 메유로치기 차고라다 디 아니 세그 네마 드야제다 용다 초그라스라 베난 간주다 위바이나 안 산지 공방기 비기 네세테다 간주스 가시스
The mouse, your friend. Right.
찌찌들어 빵가는 찌찌tinder다 그 요거 대화이너로 공부 주스 그 대나 싫어 빵가 찌찌 요거 대라 먼저 미 요거 공부 주스 그냥 주는 거 싫어다 싫어다 별
So the mice living in the wild in Tibet, sometimes they run about really quickly. It is said that kind of sometimes they take it to an extreme where if they cover a distance, to go so fast that they cover a distance of a person walking 10 steps, just by the force of their exertion, they just pass out, pass away. Yeah.
어디다 가자 단지까지 이다기 셈려야 삼야디 코란조 퐁데야디 아니지 세구 퐁데인자 다 디코나 삼니 데고라스 다 디안 드베지 다 세구 드베지다 용초그라서라 가스는 안주 산지 공방단 데고라다 안주 산지 공방 데고어데 이나야 안주 셈려야 셈그 네버라 찍때 산지 공방기 찍 세로지래 찍때 봐이나 아니 자원이니 톱 메시그 소르치 레데 이나야 베존지나 토여러스 텐자 이다기야 아니지 디 세구니 메시버 딘디제만도스라 간지 몰람게는 드웨이 비탄데 셰워당이
So it refers here, may a stream of nectar flowing down from the hands of the powerful transcendent Chenrezig satisfy the hunger and thirst and so forth. May they find food, clothing, and possession. So normally when we think of hungry ghosts or pretas, we think of those beings which are bereft of food and clothing and so forth. So being bereft of food, clothing, and so forth is not limited only to pretas, only to hungry ghosts, but there are also other people, for example, in this world, who are bereft of food, clothing, and so forth. And often it is also a state of mind in which you think that you're bereft of, you feel that you're bereft of food and clothing and so forth. That is a state of mind that you can say in some sense it shares similarity with that of a hungry ghost. But is it a case that they cannot be obtained at all? Well, Geshe reckons that even if your state of mind is such that you think you're bereft of all those things, you can still do something about it. You can still accomplish them. Like, for example, currently you could say that we haven't attained a state of enlightenment. We are not enlightened, but the state of enlightenment is attainable for us. We can accomplish that. We can accomplish that with effort. So maybe you could say that it's likely also the case with being bereft of food and clothing and so forth. In your mind, you might think that you have none of them, but there's still something that you can do about it. You can still accomplish that.
제 물론 이제 단다 아니 지지당 간서 이달에 용식 말이 삼성도 물론 이제는 된다 안지 데메로지레 삼성 그 초든디 다 용식으로서 간서 남도는 타면도 딘디 인사 말 물론 인심이 야고야지 그러 물론 도주 인심이 된 거야지 아주 전주디 이게 전주 송야기 그거 타투버디 잔주 샘름 붙이디 마기바 개바 네바 콘도 패약지 그러 디 코니체도 아니 전주 레벨주도 송여버디 야자야다 말was 그래서 탐미 호위 레벨디 냠타비기 비기 난송 숨을 소비기 아니 냠타비 심진 대다 미유도 손이 물론 가주스기 숙침부기와 뒤측이 아니 조 펜사디 랑기 샘려야 즉 인지 계셔보다 잔주스em 계셔보디 아니 콘든 패야기 귤야 무스 drogo였어레스라.
So this can be accomplished through our aspirations. So we do not undermine the importance of making such aspirations. After all, when we think about the dedication chapter in which we do make such aspirations, here in Shantideva's Guide to Bodhisattva Way of Life, consisting of 10 chapters, the 10 chapters of this text are dedicated solely for the generation of bodhicitta. May bodhicitta that has not arisen arise and grow. May bodhicitta that has already arisen never decline, but increase more and more. So all the things that Shantideva is saying here in this text are aiming at the development of bodhicitta, and aspiration is part of it. So that when we in our mind consider those sentient beings experiencing different types of sufferings, and we generate compassion towards them, and also generate bodhicitta in relation to them, it is helping our mind, in that it is getting our mind closer and closer to the state of enlightenment. So it is first of all benefiting our mind.
냠타비 숨진게 내단디 샘려야 양양 상로다 안 디기 냠다 딜리 트는 지마로 냠바 조쇼 냠바디 아니 비기 샘라 삼야 삼마임바 아니 셰네나 물론 찍디 껴바이나 아니 펜사 쪼디 랑기 규지 닌지 슈치르야 될 때니 잔주고 샘 슈치르 용야디 다 야자야담 팽그러와서 인자 카요 라요기 물론 디기 젠든도 물론 겨운디 잔든 샬런 드르세디 야자야담 연구요레스.
So when we think of how it is helping our mind in terms of the development of compassion and bodhicitta, we develop compassion and bodhicitta in relation to sentient beings who are in a pitiful situation. In our aspirations, we think, may they be liberated from their suffering. And when we recite such aspirations with the thought of compassion, may they be liberated from the suffering, it increases our compassion, it increases our bodhicitta, which means that it is helping our own mind. So here we're making such aspirational prayers and seeking the benefit of others. We pray for the benefit of others, but on the side, indirectly, it is benefiting our own mind.
라 난주지 냠탑이 심정기 네솔디 마사마지 랑기 비기 미치톤동 디기 나로라야 직보진 고콘 대바이나 델때니 차단 슈치를 줘야지다 동금 슈치를 줘야지 델때니 샘디 마기바 마르 줘야지마도 야지야다마 용구요 마리스 라 텐자 냠탑이 심정 내던디 가주 삼투바 디츠기 아니 냠탑이 심정래 미니 닌지키에도 용구요레스 냠탑이 심정래 미니 닌지키바이나 아니 참바키바이나 차당기 샘디 뇽을 줘야지 라 차당기 샘 뇽을 줘는디 샘래에 시대 망을 줘야지 아니 간지 간주 고얀 탈도버디 대화를 왔어라 대화 슈치를 줘야지 샘그 대화 슈치를 줘야지 야시야다마 디차고 그랬어라.
So in this practice, we generate compassion towards sentient beings who find themselves in a pitiful situation. So when we regard their pitiable situation, we generate compassion towards them. We generate loving kindness towards them. And as a result, our own anger and attachment are weakened. They abate, which means that our mind is made more peaceful and more happy. And this is what we need. We need kind of what we're wanting, what we're seeking is a state of mind that is happier, state of mind of well-being. So compassion that we develop towards other living beings who find themselves in a pitiful situation is also benefiting our own mind.
야, 배나 자세 좀 쉬어라. 당한 마음도 자세 좀 쉬어리게. 아니 고지 강포래야. 아니 냠신 나야디 잔주고 셈다. 동문이 또비 셔브 돌아야 다 냠신 나여버디 자세자리스. 또 냠신 나온디게 아니 잔주고 셈생인디 펜범바시 임바 란다시 니가래야. 아니 펜도치 퉁행기 삼로지 임바 디 삼바디 닌지라데니 케와디 뇽이 트요러스. 닌지 기야기 탑 약슈디 아니 슈체슈디 냠타비 심징기 동을 삼수디 세바인자 아니 조주나노라야 아니 비기 냠타기 심징기 아니 동을 용수디 아니 슈체부 슈주 송야디야 균체 아니 타르투나 잔죽셈 기야치트 로 디레도스.
Here Shantideva is speaking of the way to develop the mind of enlightenment and emptiness on the basis of his own experience in his own practice. So Shantideva throughout his life was focusing in his practice on bodhicitta, the mind of enlightenment, and developing the view of emptiness. And as such, he's seen bodhicitta to be solely beneficial. And the way that bodhicitta is generated is through observing the suffering of other living beings and developing compassion with respect to them. And Shantideva has developed an actual experience of compassion in focusing on sentient beings that are in a pitiful situation. That is the best way to develop compassion, through observing sentient beings in a pitiful situation. So Shantideva has seen compassion to arise in such a powerful way in relation to such sentient beings. And at the end, this practice will lead us to the development of bodhicitta, as seen by Shantideva.
네, 단파버 제리스용기 차는 법이 두지외미 경기 이다 남는 세금기 증벌 제시 추체니 따도 세월 쇼스.
The commentary to this section says, may a stream of nectar milk flowing down from the hand of the powerful transcendent Chamresic satisfy the hunger and thirst of the hungry ghosts, and may they be refreshed forever by bathing in it.
다솜바 덴드리 텐동 호발라니스 덴드로라야 하미니 살라야 수 감다 수메 다 딜레 아니 센토비다 아니 가데이가 춘즈 소보다 용고라스라 간지 아니 덴드리 텐동 호발라니스 donghar da thawar ngowa ta debi thendru ngo tambo donga da thawar ngowa la shi ambo mansa wa meji ngar ji sungur mebang ngowa ta ubi donghar ta yide mebang ngowa ta navi donghar ta dama ta thebi dongar mebang ngowa ta yonsu drobi donghar ta mima ingi neba shewa ngowa was.
Now, having covered the dedication so that the suffering of the lower realms may be pacified, we now move on to dedicating for the welfare of beings in the higher realms. So in the higher realms, in pleasant state of existence, we have human beings, we have gods, we have gods of the desire realm, the formless realm. So we dedicate for the welfare of those living beings in those states of existence. This section is divided into two main points: dedicating so that they may be free from suffering, and dedicating so that they may accomplish their desired aims. Let's first off look at the dedication so that they may be free of suffering, consisting of 4 points. Dedicating so that they may not be born with incomplete faculties and be without discomfort while in the womb. Dedicating so that they are without the suffering of poverty and mental discomfort. Dedicating so that they may be without the sufferings of illness and the suffering of encountering aversion. And finally, dedicating so that the suffering of beings in all directions and the harm caused by non-humans is pacified.
Tambo ongbo mansang meji ngal ji sung mebong hoanes lowan nam ji sung tongxing ombe tagdu dra thesho lamu gyndru chijendu druman nemi zawar shos.
First off, dedicating so that they may not be born with incomplete faculties and be without discomfort while in the womb. In verse 18 in chapter number 10. So looking at verse 18, it says, "May the blind see and the deaf always hear sounds. Just as it was for Maya Devi, may pregnant women give birth without being harmed."
Tirda longwe dongar longa laya ko longwe gi dongar mixe waji gyunguras eni amjo mago ngalaya delai tembi khurangi donga ji yunguras ra ta ma pigi eni pugi bi khadulaya malaya hajangi eni se mutibi eni donga dinde yunguras ra.
So here we think of sufferings which are particular to certain situations. For the blind are the sufferings that the blind experience. For the deaf, there are their suffering. And also the unbearable suffering of giving birth and such.
Longwe dungarch ra mingiga mingi longa di tachi pena chik sandong chiare ane kolo dindi kembu kabdula ya ane ta koran samnalo ya tachi kala tengi digi koran kala yagaji sen ngala duwa di tigi samsung gi samna majiba shule gor sikdu sara ane ta kanji o dindi janje pigi yagaji teba ina ya ane kola ya ta duwa chigore samsung gi kanji samnalo ya majiba shuchki dindi yungiyoris ane wamba digi me pasho me gemoji geba na kola chali jagdu samsung da kajin guba na kola dugja chigla gore samsung samna pe masiba kale yorsa tisu tang anzu nyongyo marwas ra.
There are sufferings that people with disabilities experience, which it is not part of our realm of experience. And some of them are also suffering which are created by states of mind. Like, for example, it is said that for some people that are blind, since they're not unable to see what's happening around them, they might also become a little bit suspicious, thinking that, for example, since they cannot see the food that they're given, sometimes also they cannot see the clothing that they're given, they might think that they're given things that are poor in comparison with others. Or like, for example, when it is possible that when a deaf person looks at someone, a couple of people speaking and laughing, they might think that they're laughing at oneself, not understanding what they're saying. They might think that they're actually mocking me and so forth. So those experiences often are not part of our own experiences, but it is said that sometimes when you have incomplete faculties on top of the difficulties or sufferings that you have anyway, they're the ones that are also caused by your mind.
데리다 지버다 말아야 부지 갑둘라 비 식도서 베디 토르여 쓰기도 당한주지 남규 비 따직 샤르주다 딘딜라 소바 마임바 맹간 기어마이 코런 남규 기어바이나 베마즈바데니 대용거라스 딘디 따 간지 동아 슈치 이어was 다 동아 슈 딘디 베 소수고 수부 식도서 토르고요레 베 아니 빠빠카 케드와이나야 던도 보고 될래야 지 네버 마용야 삼로 데마도 아니 지 소수 동아 가수 좋나야 베 서치니 아니 딘디친다 파메기 아니 간조다 세요 이어was 다 두조 인지미니 탱고야지 로 딘디 템바이나 아니 파마카딘 심부임바치 로 샘딘니 파마 아니 하던도 아마디 아니 틴침부임바치 소르바이나 아니 찬주 전주기다 gondun 조직 차거레스
Or the suffering of giving birth. So for us, for women in this environment, often when they give birth, they enjoy a health system. They're doing it often in hospitals. They sometimes get things to dull the pain and so forth. But when we think of mothers who give birth without any support system, without any pain management and so forth, the pain is likely to be unbearable pain. And even if your the skin is rendered open, and even if kind of childbirth becomes very painful and your skin is rendered open, still a mother is solely invested in the welfare of her newborn child. So here we can think about it also again in order to appreciate the kindness of our mothers.
대회는 로한남지 미기 숙통시 원배따도 다트버 쇼스 사무균주미 비다 추구지가 고 아니 망갈니 제무고바 아니 지 라베 오는 추 아니 땐토야라 소바 딘디 연구에서라다 디난신지 아니 말이야 아니 네버메바 아니 자와쇼스
May the blind behold forms with the eyes, and may the deaf always hear sounds like magical goddesses. May pregnant women safely give birth.
단이버 우동하다 이미디 매봉호와네스 제번 남기 거다다 제번 남기 세다니 공번 남기 최다다 동원신부 토버쇼스.
The next point in this section is dedicating so that they are without the suffering of poverty and mental discomfort. 2 verses in that section. We begin with verse 19. May the naked obtain clothing, the hungry obtain food, and the thirsty obtain water and delicious drinks.
들다 베나 아니 출룩하시기 아니 메지고장 메지코랑 비다지 제부와 체친 아니 간지 동화 단들레미 소르신 라 딘디 난거라스 저 지지디 가서다 간주 아니 제수이란 최고야시 라 아니 베 제번 남기기 동할 공번 남기기 동할 어두수 비기게 무슨 체도 베나 용니 데발라 소바 아니 세제치야라 소바 어두 아니 제니 오네 비리야 동아 카리여버디 소수 무슨 용치니 아니 디 톤에다 아니 도주 동아데 타쇼 삼비기 로지키에 두바나 아니 물론도 숙침부 숙직 최고사리스로
There's some religions, some traditions in which some practitioners walk around naked, do not use any clothing whatsoever. So they take on suffering of not having protecting clothes. There are some practitioners or practices in which one limits their foods and drinks and so forth. Then we can also rejoice in the hardship that those practitioners put into their spiritual development. Like, for example, sometimes here we do the practice of nyungne, getting by on less, in which we limit our food and drinks. And of course, there's suffering or pain that you experience as a result of that. But you think, may my pain be in lieu of the pain of others? May I be able to take upon myself the pain of others and thereby free other sentient beings from suffering? So this is regarded as a virtuous practice. Sure. So would it be a good practice to wish them to be free from attachment to those things, or is it or so not to suffer from the absence of food and so forth? Jason did all that also monangawa ina konzo 제공기 동에 차와 쇼스 되는 몰란지 제거르베스 konzo 세당 동와라 소발라 차화메바 쇼스 마용와 쇼스는 몰랑갸 고그르베스
간다스 셀 착범 메워쇼스 세 토버쇼스 니가 잡는 디그라스
Well, you can do both. You can wish them to have no attachment to food and drink, and also to think, may they obtain food and drink. Both of them are good.
야슈디 세 마토바기 아니 트금 그 동har기 나위 아니 냠탑이 숨진기 내수도 숙침부 싸우는 대주 트금 그 동har리 토버쇼스에게 말람디 잡나 이야기와서리스로 디게 닌지기래야 아니 닌지기래야 펭구어로서
I guess the feels that the best would be to think of those sentient beings who experience suffering because they cannot obtain food and drink, although they wish for. Those that experience suffering because of that, you think, may they be free from that suffering. So in terms of making aspirations and using that in order to develop compassion, Geshe reckons that this is a more effective or powerful way. This is the best way to develop compassion.
So saya 통야 약수도서 세체 아니 티텐드 니르체 그게 마랑에도서 텔레차바메와 쇼슬라 하나 테스치 캔서라지도스라.
Whereas sometimes when we think of ourselves, so for ourselves, we are still looking for the best food that we can get, the best drinks that we can have, and kind of we eat that, we drink that, and then we think, may other living beings be free from attachment to food and drink. Sometimes it is a little bit strange if we're still in our mind trying to get the best that we can.
그 맵이 지루 남지 그 다단 제반 남지 카도단 제로 푸숨 속에 세는 공반 남지 추다단 동원신부 터버쇼스
Says in the commentary to verse 19, may the naked ones receive clothing, the hungry food of perfect color, smell, and taste, and may the thirsty receive water and other tasty drinks.
땜반 남지 노르토쇼 냥이 냠타 가토쇼 이체 남게 이수신 땜바 포숨 촉버쇼스.
Then verse 20 says, may the destitute obtain wealth, may the wretched with sorrow find joy. May the depressed be comforted and attain perfect steadfastness.
딸들이 엽식이 보면 대바 나오는 노르토버쇼스 Debo the Travi. Nyan the Trava, Yora the Lonjo the Nyanganyam Tanam, and ye go tober shows. Pusum soba Nyamba soji, ye cheba nam jans. And ye sushi, don't hurt the yimidi ziminibi, and temper pusum sober shows.
May the destitute lacking possessions attain wealth. May the miserable and downtrodden who are separated from what they wish for attain mental happiness. May the depressed whose fortunes degenerated be mentally restored, and attain the excellent and complete stability where they cannot be harmed by suffering or mental unhappiness.
Then somebody Navi Dungardan, Dawan the Chibi, Dungar Mebangoanis, Simjen never Chinyaba, Newton Nelly Tagurchik, Drovin Nen Maluba, Thousand John Meber Show, Tragba Namn Jimmy Show, Jimma Namn Trover Show, two men Namn Tudeshi, Sam the Penzo Nigurchiks.
Now the third point in this section is dedicated so that they may be without sufferings of illness and the suffering of encountering aversion. We have two verses in that section, beginning with verse 21. It says, sorry. However many sick sentient beings there are, may they quickly be freed from their illnesses. May all the diseases without exception of migrating beings never occur again. May the frightened be fearless, may those bound be released, may the weak be strong, and may their minds be mutually friendly.
Daxinji Gava Chini Yubin to Sumjan Neba Chineba Nudu Nelly Tower Show, Drovi Lusumji Nen Maluba, Thousand John Meber Show. Paruji Dai Jigbe Tagba Namn, Jigba Meber Show, Raman Meba Jinji Chima Namn, Chimali Tor Kurjik, Wan Chongwi, Tutop Meba Namni, Tudan Denshin, Penzu Semn, Nyemba, Pembi Sam the Denver Kurjiks.
By the power of whatever virtue there is of myself and others, may all sick sentient beings quickly be liberated from their sickness, and may all the physical and mental sufferings of migrators be banished forever. May those that are in the fear of an enemy be without fear. May serfs who are bound by others and lack independence and freedom be liberated from their bondage. May the powerless gain power and strength and be endowed with the beautiful minds of mutually benefiting each other.
That's the shame. Timolom Jover. Yeah.
Dechen is asking, can a meditation on emptiness be contaminated, especially in the context of the three spheres? How does meditating on the three spheres contaminate meditating on emptiness? Tila Kempo Kumpalki Jawastua, Ani Mwagiaina Mami Koso Mamikpa then Gom Gagogres. Ani Mwagiabu Kapsanayan Koso Mamikpa di Simbetone Gom Gagogres. Dichena Ani then Mwagiaina Sherab Sakwameba Kigres. Ni Korsum Mamikpa Sana Ton Tawa Dendich. Pechiamo Matawaina, and share up the some Sacheki share up the Chagres. The Kandechi Nas, not so Gom Kandechi Gagogres.
There is Sangi Chu Delia, Tabachim Chu, Howden Tabachim Chu Cheondi, and Tabshi Son the Jugor set. Tabshi Son the Jugor set, Terrace. Tabshi Son the Pina, Tab Gamba Gombaina, Karang Tab Gamba Gombaina, and Gavalabuchi Yoris, Yashadam Yoris. The Norwares, Noriomaris. In a sheriff gom to Baina, 뉴르도 산지 고모토베티 라 고르세 데려왔어 라 데자 뭐와 겨원디게 피게 아 뭐와 잡 잡고 라니 잡시기 피게 율 아니 잡주 뭐 숨잘로 코스음스는 딜라워스 숨잘로 아니 총나 아니 유딘 마트바 라완도 메바 지 딘지기 똥바니기 아니 ngansuji yimbadi semla shani ani lu di simbigoni ngo chetuwa na yakshu deres ra deres
세상 Quran so the sherab sache
je
sherab di kande chinas
sa
de ngaso ngwa gyawaina nyamne shewaina di sache de sherab nyamdo nyamne kande chichagres
똥이 된 상원디 똥바니 된 가주 상바이나 똥바니 또비 셔럽디 아니 사브 쪽으로 왔어 사브 쪽인디 뉴문바데 시지디비 바자데 지비기 님볼아야 드야치 디빵야치 아니 디 세바들야 사바 메바스 사바세디 뉴문발에 샤고라스 셔럽디 똥이 또비 셔럽 가주 검토가 디쪽이 아니 사체디 뇽조고요 바디 딜라고레스
ene sakpatan cheba
사바드 제바드 뉴문드 제바
제가 sherab sakpatan cheba kande chichagres
셔럽 사바드 제바
사체기 sherab di kempo gomela dendeji lagrava
제레데 남중안주 사지기 셔럽세디 아니 뉴문 사지 똑베 사지 니샤니 똑바 사지세 차고레스 또머니 또비 셔럽디 콤바야부 마지 또머니 온순 또마드나 인디 셔럽디 사지 셔럽레스 똑비 셔럽레스 딱 곰니 산난 통바이나 사메기 셔럽세 차고레스
네 sakchesedi pena sherab di miktakba tobe sherab khona toni tobe sherab mebatone de gomba ina de yan sachegi sherab den lat que se nyomon la nyembo ma
똑바 똑비 온주 셔럽텔라 사지 셔럽스 민타오 요레스
So in our practice of the Mahayana, we seek to combine both method and wisdom. If we only focus on the method side, even if the method side is very powerful, very effective, and it is the method side is virtue, is virtuous, it is not mistaken, but still, if we do it without wisdom, it is not enough. With wisdom, we want our practice to swiftly result in the state of enlightenment, to quickly result in the state of enlightenment. And for that end, we practice together with observing the emptiness of the three spheres. The three spheres are said to be unapprehendable. The three spheres are the person, we ourselves, the person that dedicates, the recipient of our dedication, another person, and the dedication itself. None of them exist objectively. None of them exists independently. So when we become cognizant of the absence of independent existence, the absence of objective existence, we dedicate together with the unapprehendability of the three spheres. So then, if we think of what would constitute uncontaminated wisdom would be developed through contemplating emptiness. So we contemplate emptiness, we think of emptiness, and our contemplation of emptiness becomes more and more profound, deeper and deeper, to the point in which it can act as an antidote to our own obscurations. So when it acts as an antidote for our own obscurations, we eliminate our afflictions, afflictive obscurations and cognitive obscurations, and that results in the state of Buddhahood. So this is wisdom that is uncontaminated. Now the question is, what then? So here Geshe said that the contamination here is regarded as being contaminated or uncontaminated by afflictions. So since here wisdom is acting as an antidote to our afflictive states of mind or to cognitive and afflictive obscurations, it is not contaminated by the afflictions. Now, if you wonder what then is contaminated wisdom, well, there are actually two ways of being together with contamination. One of them is being together with the afflictions. The other one is being together with conceptual thoughts. So when we consider the second way of contamination, if your wisdom of emptiness is still conceptual, it is not perceptual, it is regarded as contaminated wisdom. Whereas when we get to the point in which the wisdom of emptiness becomes perceptual, which means that it is a direct realization of emptiness, it is uncontaminated wisdom.
Yes. Thank you.
That's all. Yes.
Ready the ngo den shedang jo rasra. Ngo den shedang da zu lam de luksu chi kariya ba titon droganza na gombata zan tanga densal derwa. Ngo den shedang di da ke mengin jina ko merwasta. You chona suzugi pi mingdang and di chedo ani ngo de dich sonro chis ani gombateleya and dileya ngo dengi ngo denchi and this chik zech putuwaina ngo ani mulomgi denk zecha gores driviala pendo yores ra di inchimi chego gores ani suzugi phamma pingya ani chik pugu putu kanji su chongwaina ani pina 인지민이 있다 마무고만 전 고멍아 주정은 뉴스야 아니 야 연달을 채요 말했어. 간지 든지지 푸제 아니 슈바이나 저당 든지 슈고 그랬어. 아니 아주 까보고 내가 챙겨 주고 그게 뭐라면 줘야지. 아주 내가 인자 야시야다면 인다 인스.
So Colin's sister Dorothy passed away suddenly yesterday. So in general, when we do dedication for the sake of someone that has passed away, if dedications are being requested, of course, we do that. And if dedications are not requested, not always you do them. Geshe says that, like, for example, in the monastery where he comes from, the monks in the daily routine also incorporate dedication for the sake of people that pass away, but the dedications are being requested in the sense that if one of your relatives, friends, and so forth passed away and you want dedications to be made for them, then normally you would send a message to the monastery, you come to the monastery, you make certain offerings on their behalf. It doesn't have to be great offerings. It can be actually very little. So if you dedicate, if you ask for dedications to be made and you offer $2, $5, $10, $20, or a lot of money, whatever you want to offer is okay, right? There's no difference in the amount of offering that you give. But the offerings, actually, you could say, as a, if you're the one requesting the offering, then this is the substance that he uses dedicating for the sake of another person. Then sometimes we have visiting groups of Bhutanese and so forth, and they ask Geshe Santans to make some prayers for the sake of other people. And Geshe is often saying that, of course, he's going to do that, but it's also good to leave some offerings or donations for the sake of the center, in thinking that this is the traditional way of kind of making such dedication. So here Geshe is not saying that in order to say that now we should turn to Colin and ask him for money to so that we dedicate it for the sake of his sister. Of course, we're not going to do that. And anyway, Colin here is one of the main people involved in the center, is contributing so much in the different things that it does for the sake of the center. So of course, we're going to do those dedications, but Geshe is just using this opportunity to say that often when we're doing dedications for the sake of someone that has passed away, this is the traditional way of making dedications. 그래서 콜랭기 저와치 기압선사 이라 콜라 렌치 단도와 지금 콜란 핑계 제도 콜란디 바도 땅 개와 치면은 참아요. All right, so yeah, so we're going to do for the sake of Colin's sister, her name is Dorothy Goodall. We're going to do a recitation of one mala of Om Mani Padme Hum. So that's paying, first of all, paying homage to Chinrezig.
Om Mani Padme Hum, 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 Om Mani Padme
And the corazón tola de china de jun china. All right, so let's do the dedication. It says, all right. Gewa di nyudu da lama sangye drugyo ne drowa chikya malupa de salango parasho janchu semcho rinpoche make panang kegyu chi gewa nyamba me paya gone gondo pewa sho kangri rawe kowe shinkame pendan dewa malu jungwe ne chenre siwan tenzin gyatso shape site padu tengyu chi tu tsu jan chin jang gun gya we ten zin kyong pe we gun so do po ze cho sung ko we le mon tu du pa han da so du je gun du shab ten